Hello everybody and welcome to Wednesdays Reflexology Wisdom. And today we move forward in our chronological order of the foot charts, and we are now at 2001. And we are going to be looking at the wonderful Lynne Booth's vertical reflexology hand charts. These are quite unique in that while working at an old people's home, and I've been to this old people's home with Lynne, it's amazing. It's like a five-star hotel. Quite not what you would expect. But she was working on people that were in wheelchairs, that couldn't mobilize very well, and she was thinking, how can I give the best treatment when some people couldn't lift their legs, so that she was able to get to the sole of the foot. And so she thought, right, well, I'm going to have to do the best I can. And she adapted reflexology so that she could still give reflexology while the feet were what's called load bearing. In other words, so that the sole of the foot was still on the ground. And so the charts that we're going to look at today reflect Lynne's method of working while the feet and the hands are still load bearing, but you then work them from the dorsal aspect. So let's have a look at her charts now. So here we are. Here are Lynne Booth's wonderful charts. And as you can see, we've also got a book just here. Lynne is the most adorable person. She really is. I've already done Lynne's course. In fact, I did Lynne's course quite a few years ago, and got one of her books at the time, but she also decided to help me with this presentation on her charts, that she was going to send one of her books, and she's given me loads of notes, and I will be referring to these notes because it does actually help me give a much better presentation, because there are so many unique points about Lynne's charts that are different to everybody else's. We're going to start with the foot chart, so we'll just move this to one side for the moment, and I'm going to zoom in so that we can see this chart in better detail. Now, the first thing that I hope you will notice is that most people's foot charts have all the detail on the sole of the foot, quite a bit of detail on the medial and lateral edge, but then not so much on the dorsal aspect. Lynne, if you remember in my introduction, she was predominantly working at an old people's home in Bristol, and had discovered that it wasn't so easy to be able to give a sole reflexology treatment. So she decided that she was going to work through the feet by accessing the reflexes on the dorsal aspect. She discovered, in fact, that she was getting even better results than she'd anticipated, and she has originated the science of the feet, when load-bearing, actually activate the nerve endings much more efficiently than when the feet are in a passive position, i.e. when the feet are lifted up, presented to the reflexologist, and aren't load-bearing any longer. Now, there are also some unique points that Lynne has originated, but let's just first of all orient ourselves with this chart so that we can see how it's actually really working. So let's start with what we're familiar with the sole of the foot. So we've got the heart, the stomach, the heart, the lungs, the shoulder, the diaphragm, and then we have the liver, the stomach, the pancreas, small intestine, colon, and kidneys. And so let's take these over here. So we have the heart, the lungs, the shoulders, we have the diaphragm, we have the stomach, the pancreas, we have the liver, we have the colon, and we have the small intestine, and then of course the urinary system. So we can see how the similarity works here. We've also, because we've got all of these reflexes on the dorsal aspect of the foot, they need to come around right the way along to the spine. So the medial aspect of the foot looks so much busier than it does on a standard chart. Likewise, the lateral side of the foot. We've got to remember that the foot curves around, so we have all of these reflexes available there too. Now, the lateral side of the foot brings me to something that is, for the first time that I have seen, chronologically I'm speaking, and that is something called the lateral spine. Now, I have only seen this in one other place, and that is where a good friend of mine, Tony Porter, he mentions the lateral spine as well. And I know that Lynne did do her ART training with Tony Porter. I know she was also IIR trained in London, and I'm guessing that that was when Tony Porter was the IIR tutor in London. I know that Tony and Lynne are very, very good friends still. So did they work on this together? Or is this something that Lynne originated and Tony has also taken on? Or it could, of course, be the other way around. But whatever it is, this is fascinating. And I'll tell you why it's fascinating. And that's because exactly where Lynne places the lateral spine is also where the urinary bladder meridian runs, along the edge of the foot. So if you were to take the side of the little toe, work down the edge of the foot, you would be working along the urinary bladder meridian. The urinary bladder meridian runs up the erector spinae muscles of the spine. So isn't that fascinating? We've got reflexology and acupuncture both agreeing that working this area here will help with back problems. Absolutely fabulous. If you've never tried it, if you've never tried helping somebody with backache, try finger walking, finger hooking, knuckling, whichever you would prefer, along where Lynne is showing this lateral spine, and you are going to create a lot of good for your client. Another thing that I love that I'm seeing here, and it's great to see how the charts are evolving, and that is that Lynne places an ovary and testes helper reflex right at the base of the heel here. And if you recall when we looked at Chris Stormer's chart just last week, she was also placing the reproductive reflexes right at the back of the heel. So we've got this similarity here. We're seeing that reflexologists, eminent reflexologists, are finding that these areas here are helping with reproductive issues. I'm also really glad to see that Lynne isn't one of the prudish reflexologists amongst us, and that she is very, very happy to place the penis and vagina reflex just here. Again, not where Chris Stormer places it, but this is actually where I would personally recognize it to be as well. So absolutely brilliant. Now, on to something unique and new as well that Lynne is discovering, and that is that she's discovering that if you pulse these points just here, it really, really helps activate the zones. Now, I'm just going to zoom in so you can see clearer where I'm talking about. So let's just come right in. Can you see where we have these dots around the ankle? And Lynne is saying that if you pulse these points, it's really going to activate the zones. I love working with the zones. I believe that the zones are like the reflexology equivalent of the meridians. They are channels of energy. And if the zones are flowing freely, then energy will flow right round the rest of the body too. So I absolutely love the way that Lynne has added these pulse points. Superb, absolutely brilliant. Now, what I'm going to do is to bring in the hand chart at this point. Just going to have a quick look at this, because once you're used to working on the foot the Lynne Booth way, the hand chart makes perfect sense because it is designed the same way. It's got the same colours, the same positioning of the reflexes. Everything is joined up, so to speak, between these two charts. They're super clear. There is also so much in them. There really, really is. We can tell how reflexology is evolving now as we're discovering new reflexes, more points to work. And in fact, I think this is the reason also why Lynne has sent me her book too. Because being as there is so much to work on here, for some areas, say for the thumbs, for the big toes, for certain areas, everything is so densely packed in here. So let's actually now just have a look at the book, because this is going to be able to show things a little clearer. Now, the first thing that I would just like to say is that the book actually almost starts right into chapter 3. Before we even get on to the feet, it's working on the hands. Now, this makes perfect sense because Lynne was working on people that couldn't mobilize so well. She couldn't access the feet so well. So the hands have got just as much detail as the feet. And I love this. I personally love working with the hands myself. I find that when I'm working in hospitals, trying to access the feet is a nightmare, and working the hands is so much easier because you can just get alongside a client's bed and the hands are easy to get to. Now, here we have got the lateral spine again, up the edge of the hand. So a really, really important area to work if you are going to be helping somebody that's stiff, that doesn't mobilize very well. So it's very, very clear why Lynne emphasizes this reflex. Very important one to work with it. Now, moving over here onto the foot here, we can see even clearer where we have these zone triggers, and also where we have the helper reflex for the ovary and for the testes. So this is unique to Lynne, very unique to Lynne. Moving on, we're going to get to something where people, I hope, when you're watching this, are going to go, ooh, because we have got nail reflexes. So here we have got, and you can see just here, nail reflexes for irritable bowel syndrome. So I'm going to just come closer so that this is clear, and you can actually see where these bowel reflexes are on the nail. And the way that Lynne would work this, it would be nail on nail. So she would work like this. If you're interested in this, again, book a course with Lynne. Get yourself down to Bristol. She is the most amazing teacher. She's an angel. She really, really is. So we have got, I'm just showing a couple of them, by the way. There are all the reflexes on the nails as there are for the whole body. Now, I don't know also whether you've seen something here. There is a word, shadow liver, shadow pancreas. This is working both sides. So if you were working on the liver reflex on one side of the foot, work exactly the same on the other side of the foot. That will help the liver, and it's known as the shadow reflex. So it's working on the other side. And here we go again. We have got endocrine nail chart. Just here, endocrine system, all mapped on the nails. So there is so much more to Lynne Booth's vertical reflexology than just working on the dorsal aspect, because we're working on helper areas that you'll have never heard of before. We're working on the nails, which you would never heard of before. Absolutely fascinating. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed learning about Lynne Booth's reflexology styles. I hope that you have discovered that there is so much more to vertical reflexology than just working on somebody's feet while they're standing, sitting with their feet planted on the ground. These charts are absolutely amazing, so detailed, so many reflexes on them, and I've loved sharing them with you. So I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday when we have another installment where we move even further forward chronologically through the reflexology charts. So until next week, stay safe, stay well.